Welcome to Meldon Law and Friends. I am Jeffrey Meldon, attorney and founder at Meldon Law, and welcome to the show. We've got a terrific show for you, and I wanted to go over a few things that we've got going at Meldon Law as far as free giveaways. We've got a Gator Gymnastics event coming up January 27th. This is going to be a big deal. Georgia is coming to town, and they usually have a very good gymnastic team. For those of you that don't know, the Gator gymnastic team is ranked number 1 and 2 or 2 in the country, depending on who you talk to. And they have been red hot. They beat Auburn about a week and a half ago, which was billed as a super match because there was more talent on the floor at the Exact Center Arena in Gainesville, the O-Dome, than any other gymnastics meet except for the World Championships last year. So that's pretty impressive. The Gators are probably 8 deep as far as the talent. They've got nothing but potential Olympic stars on the team. Alabama was also full of stars. However, I think the Gators were deeper, and that's why they rolled over Auburn. Now we've got Georgia coming to town, and we should win that match. However, it's not, nothing's guaranteed because the women are doing some very, very difficult routines, and all you have to do is have a couple of the women not do so good on one routine, and it can mess things up. What they do is they have 4 different events, and you have 6 competitors for each event from each team. So the Gators have 6 people, that are doing the beam, for example. You discard the lowest score out of the 6, so 5 out of the 6 count, which means that you better not have 2 competitors mess up because it could destroy you in an individual event and be a big deal. So anyhow, I'm getting into gymnastics more and more the more I see the Gators. They're really incredible matches. They're all sold out. And by the way, Meldon Law is giving away 2 tickets for the event. All you have to do is go to our Facebook page, Meldon Law, and you can get 2 tickets. We're also having a fan fest. Come early to the meet, and you will see us at FanFest giving away free swag. We have a Wheel of Fortune, and it's really something that is exciting. We're seeing lines of people coming to get the Meldon swag, and it's a lot of fun just hanging out there in the FanFest area. We also have Gator basketball versus Tennessee on February 1st. That's going to be very cool. Tennessee's got an excellent team this year. So we're going to see if we can steal one from a top 20 team. They may even be higher by the time they come here. Anyhow, we got Gator Gymnastics again coming up February 10th, and we're going to be doing a Facebook giveaway there. And last but not least, on February 11th, Gator basketball. Vanderbilt's coming to town. We're going to be giving away 2 tickets, and a Fan Fest event will be held for the Vanderbilt game. So check us out. It's a lot of fun. I've been also trying to help folks know what kind of insurance they need in the state of Florida. It's very confusing because The laws in Florida date back to 1973. That's 50 years ago. And they set limits of $10,000 for your medical bills. It's called personal injury protection, and $10,000 for the other person's property damage. Now, what's crazy is that nobody can get in and out of an emergency room for under $10,000, and nobody can get a car that's had any significant damage repaired for less than or within $10,000. So if your car is totaled, chances are you're upside down. Because the other person, in many cases, has only $10,000 in property damage. So I wrote this book called Buying Florida Auto Insurance. And I think the key here is to read the book that talks about what kind of insurances are critical for you and your family. Remember, I've talked about uninsured motorist coverage, probably the single most important coverage that you can have on your insurance policy. I would say 75% of the people on the road do not have adequate liability insurance to protect you. And what I mean by that is, even if somebody's got $50,000 worth of bodily injury liability coverage, that isn't going to go very far if you're significantly injured and you're losing work, you're going to doctor's appointments all the time, you need surgery on your neck, your back, your shoulder, your knee. You also should be fairly compensated for the intangibles, pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, scarring, disfigurement. All of those are compensable, and if you're in a serious crash where you need surgery, $50,000 isn't enough. And I would say probably less than 1 out of 4 people have more than $50,000 worth of bodily injury liability coverage. So how do you counteract that? You purchase uninsured motorist coverage, which kicks in after the other person's insurance has paid all the bills and you've been able to be compensated by them. Usually the uninsured motorist coverage kicks in when the other person has fairly low limits and you have a fairly significant case. What's neat about uninsured motorist coverage is that it travels with you. So whether or not you're in another car, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're somebody who's your kid is involved in an accident, as long as it has to do with an automobile, then there's coverage. I've even had situations where people were just near their car and their car rolled or did this, or they slammed somebody's finger or hand into a door. Even if the car wasn't being operated, as long as it's related to an automobile, there's usually coverage. So go read our book. It's free. All you have to do is call the office, 352-373-8000, and just say you want Jeffrey's book on auto insurance. And then the second thing you do is, after you've read it, go to your insurance agent. Go to your local insurance agent. I strongly recommend against calling 800 numbers or going online unless you've done your due diligence. So your due diligence is, number one, learning a little bit about insurance, having a sit down with your local insurance agent who you want somebody who's been doing it for a long time, 15, 20, 30 years, somebody who knows what they're doing and can evaluate what you need. If you call an 800 number or go online, it's like the blind leading the blind. You're probably talking to somebody who started to work at this insurance company last month and has about as much knowledge as you do as far as what your needs are, and that's not enough. So protect you, protect your family, your loved ones, and you also protect yourself in the event that you're careless and cause a crash, you certainly don't want to be sued and have somebody take away everything that you've worked for. So it's very important that you be aware of what your needs are, and we're there to help. We also have another book, in the event that you're in a crash and you want to know what to do. We wrote a book called 7 Mistakes That Can Wreck Your Florida Accident Case. And that book is really designed to help folks after they've been in a crash know what to do. The bottom line is, give Meldon Law a call, 352-373-8000, or go online to Meldon Law, and we will help you for free. There's no obligation unless we win your case, and that's standard within the personal injury legal field, that we usually, if there is insurance, we will get an excellent result for our clients, because we work really hard to try to do the best and provide the best service for our clients. So don't forget to give us a call, and we will help. We'll answer questions. And even if it's a simple question, don't be embarrassed to reach out to us and give us a call. Our first guest today is Brad Latone, and by the way, we're going to be talking with Brad because he is one of Meldon Law's new litigation attorneys, and we want to get some insights as far as his perspective on what folks need to know in the event that they're in a crash. We see it all the time. We see people who have been in a crash, and most folks call us really early in the case, and that's the thing to do. Get a hold of the lawyer right away before things get out of control. One of our jobs, even if it's not a huge case, is that we want to try to help you so that you aren't going crazy over what's happened with my car. How do I get a rental car? How do I get to and from doctor's appointments because my car was totaled? How do I make a claim against the other person's insurance company? What do I say to them? What don't I say to them? My own company, what do I do with them? How do I handle it? So those are all things we're going to discuss coming up.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit?
At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
I was going down a one-way street, and a girl that was driving her car T-boned me on my scooter. I ended up going for an MRI and discovering that I had 2 herniated discs. Coming to Cary allowed me to not have to worry about what doctor I was going to see or what physical therapist I had to go to. They say, these are the people we trust. You're going to have a great experience there, and I honestly did each time.
Call Meldon Law. Your consultation is absolutely free.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 2 herniated discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Hey, Sammy, look who's there. Say hi.
Hey!
You again!
Meldon Law, Jeffrey speaking.
Somebody hit us!
Here we go again. Here we are at Meldon Law and Friends, and it's my pleasure to welcome to our show Brad Latone. How you doing today, Brad?
I'm doing all right. I appreciate it, Jeffrey. I'm glad to be here.
Well, good. So let's start at the beginning. You're not originally from Gainesville, Florida. I know that.
Yes.
Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about your journey to Gainesville and working with Meldon Law?
Sure. So born in Hackensack, New Jersey, eventually moved to Rochester, New York. Grew up in Rochester, went to college in Buffalo. I'm a diehard Buffalo Bills fan.
Yeah, you're doing good this year.
Yes,
huh?
we are. They gave me a bit of a scare on Sunday, but I'm looking forward to them continuing on and hopefully going to the Super Bowl. You never know. But big fan of the Bills. Then eventually went to law school down in Florida and practiced in Jacksonville for several years. Started out at a real small firm, decided to go to a bigger firm, and I was on the defense side for years and represented the insurance companies and the other companies that we bring lawsuits against now. But after doing that for a long time, I decided I wanted to actually help people. And when you're on the defense side, you don't always get the opportunity to help people as much as you would like to. But it is certainly better being on the plaintiff side, helping folks, rather than being on the insurance side. So lived in Jacksonville for a few years, came over to Gainesville, and couldn't be happier at Meldon Law.
Well, that's wonderful. I think, working for the defense really gives you some perspectives that are important in representing regular folks that we represent in making claims against insurance companies. What are a few things you learned at doing insurance defense work?
I learned mostly that the insurance companies don't care as much as I would like them to. Ultimately, there are good attorneys representing insurance companies, but there's a lot of attorneys that are just trying to get them out of whatever the negligence is. And unfortunately, it doesn't help the person that's injured. But when I was on the defense side, I never was like that. I think it makes me a good attorney on this side is I never had a gotcha settlement or something where I really thought we pulled one over on somebody that was hurt. I felt like we always had a fair settlement when I represented the defense side, and that's what I look for on the plaintiff side is fairness and making sure that we get the best result for the client. Another part of it that I learned on the defense side is the insurance companies know everything, and you can't pull tricks on them. They know every lawsuit you've had, every car accident you've had, every slip and fall that you've ever had. They have all that information. So once we get involved on a case, it's always good to be honest, be truthful, because the insurance companies, they know a lot more than you think they know. And unfortunately, they use it against us. And that's what my experience being on the other side brings to Meldon Law is I know what they're looking for, I know what they have, and I can prepare the clients as best as possible for when they have to go to a deposition or a mediation or ultimately trial. I know how to prepare somebody and what the insurance company is looking for, and what they already have, what they need to handle the case as best as they can.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because a lot of times clients, when we take their case, we'll ask them about, what doctors have you been to, what accidents you've been to, And sometimes clients think that it helps their case if they hide that.
And that is when I prepare a client for a deposition or we're going through discovery, the number one thing I tell them, the quickest way to destroy your personal injury lawsuit is by lying, because it doesn't help. They're gonna find out, and it's better to be honest, straightforward up front, because we can deal with that. We can handle, other doctor's visits, other accidents. We can handle that. What we can't get out of is not being truthful about it.
So an example is a lot of folks say it's, you're in a crash and you have a knee injury and your knee's really banged up. You're going to probably need surgery. Some folks think, oh, well, I went and saw a doctor 9 years ago about my knee, but I'm going to not say anything to my lawyer. He's not going to know that I saw a doctor and that there was an MRI taken back then, and the doctor didn't do surgery, and now I need surgery, and they think it helps. Well, what Brad is saying is we know how to explain it to a jury, because in the state of Florida, like most states, if you have a pre-existing condition that's significantly aggravated in a crash, which happens all the time. I mean, the knee that's already had a problem is the weakest link, so to speak. So it's like, of course you're going to, injure that part the worst, because your knee was already weak and now it's slammed against a dashboard after you were hit at 50 miles an hour, from the rear or the front or wherever, the side. And people are going, oh, I'm not going to say anything and nobody's going to know. So what I hear you saying is that's further from the truth than anything that exists.
It is, because ultimately if we have to go before a jury, the jury's going to understand somebody had a problem with their knee 10 years ago, had an issue with their neck 5 years ago, somebody was in a car accident. The jury understands that, and we can explain that. But what a jury isn't going to like is that you didn't tell us about it. You held something from us. You lose your credibility, and it takes it away from, I understand you had a problem before, and it's obviously worse now that you got hit by a semi-truck. Of course it's worse, but if you don't tell the truth, then it becomes about credibility, and the last thing we want to do before a jury is lose credibility.
Now, the insurance adjusters, they have a lot of rules and regulations that the insurance companies provide to them in order to limit them paying more money than they can get away. I mean, look, running a business, I understand the insurance companies are running a business, and that part of their strategy is to pay as little as they can, unless it's in their best interest to pay more, because they don't want to take the risk, right? And that, at Meldon Law, we're always having seminars. We had a seminar this past week for a lot of folks, and it really talked about how insurance companies are usually are not your friend, particularly if it's a serious crash. I mean, they're saying, "Oh my gosh, we've got a $250,000 policy, and we don't want to pay that, and we're going to utilize certain strategies." How are the adjusters trained as far as minimizing what has to be paid?
Mostly, it's something that I heard a million times when I was on the defense side, is we would rather pay you, the defense attorney, than pay that plaintiff. And that always stuck out to me, because I didn't like that you would rather pay your lawyer to sift through medical records and catch something, rather than just making it right and paying the person that got hurt. And that just always stuck out to me, that they would rather pay a lawyer X amount of dollars per hour to defend them. But, a lot of times adjusters, they get some leeway, but ultimately that's our job on the plaintiff side, is to give them everything they need to make them pay the fair amount and compensate a client for the injuries that they've caused. And that's why you need a good, experienced attorney on your side to present that case to the insurance company. Because a lot of times the more we give the insurance company and the more that they can justify a settlement, the better it is for the insurance company to pay it, and better it is for our client to get compensated.
You know, one of the things I wanted to discuss was that all law firms are not the same. All, law firms representing injured parties are not the same. Based on your experience, what are some of the differences you've seen in the way that law firms represent clients and present their case?
I will say, not to, I am a member of Meldon Law now, so I'm obviously very partial towards Meldon Law, but it's the behind the scenes stuff that the client doesn't necessarily see every day. It's the getting medical records. It's finding those prior medical records that could hurt our case later on, and it's getting everything that the insurance company needs, verifying insurance coverage, making sure clients get the treatment they need, and Meldon Law does a great job of building the case and getting all of that information to the insurance company to get the best result that we can for our client.
It's interesting because over the years, we discovered that if you really look at a case in a collaborative effort and providing the adjuster with what they need, a lot of times, they're on a computer and they've got certain boxes they've got to check off, right?
Yep.
And I think inexperienced lawyers think that they're going to trick the insurance company.
Yep, they do.
And it's not really that way. The fact is that when your lawyer knows everything about the case, they're able to present it in a way where you're going to get a better recovery. And however, when you see, I call them the big box stores, the law offices that advertise 25 times more than anybody else, and you see them over and over and over again. Those business models are not necessarily set up to really give the individualized attention and service, because it costs money. And I mean, you can have a case manager with 150 cases. You can have a case manager with 60 or 70 or 80 cases. Mm-hmm. And explain how that makes a difference.
Yep, it does. It's pretty straightforward. If you've got 150 cases, you're going to be spread a lot thinner than if you have 50 or 60 cases. And the problem becomes things fall through the cracks. When you're overworked, understaffed, you have too many cases, ultimately things aren't going to get done, and it's not to say that they can't be fixed, but doing it all at the beginning and having everything you need to start with makes everybody's jobs easier moving forward, and the bigger firms can't quite do that on every single case.
Well, I think sometimes they're built on a profit model versus a how can we get the maximum dollar for the clients. And we certainly try to get the maximum recovery we can for our clients, and we do that by having case managers and attorneys that have a reasonable caseload. So for those of you that are listening, you go, what does that mean, having a reasonable caseload? It means in any of your job, many of you listening or watching, you've been in jobs where you've been overloaded to the point where you're not being effective. And so when I say that all law firms are not the same, at Meldon Law, I think we've tried to structure our law firm so that people get individualized attention. You get a call back. If you want to meet a lawyer, we actually encourage it because every time we meet a client in person, we learn something, and it helps us do a better job for our clients. So,
and you get to know the client on a personal level by meeting them face to face. I always prefer face to face. We had several clients today face to face, and they wanted they said phone is fine, but I said let's bring them into the office because I like the face-to-face aspect of it. And if I'm going to trial to convince 6 people on a jury that somebody's really hurt, I need to get to know that person. I need to understand how they got here and what impacts have happened to their life. And to do that, you've got to get to know your clients. You've got to sit down face to face, talk about their kids, talk about their grandkids, because it makes my job easier and makes me more effective when I go into trial or go into a mediation.
And it's amazing. I've never been in a client meeting where I didn't learn something.
Yep. Good or bad.
Good or bad.
Good or bad.
Yeah, but when you're sitting in a room with somebody, you see their body language. You can build up trust. When you're talking with them in a genuine manner, right? They can feel it, and also just the issues that Brad and I have been talking about being straightforward about prior injuries, prior accidents, prior claims that you made, whatever. Sometimes over the phone, it's harder for us to get that point across when you're sitting in a room with somebody and you're looking them in the eye.
And I say, "Are you sure? Are you sure?"
Saying now, well, the fact is, okay, that if you ask me every doctor that I've seen in the last 15 years, I would miss some. So our clients a lot of times miss some. By sitting down and going through the whole list of issues that we have in presenting a case, I think it really makes a difference. Number one, the clients all of a sudden understand that the more information they give us, the better job we can do. Secondly, I think it builds up trust, which is essential for us. Talk about that factor as far as trust and how clients relate to you.
Yes, absolutely. And trust is a big thing because ultimately we're not miracle workers as lawyers. We can do our best. We can do everything we can. But at the end of the day, sometimes there's not much we can do. And to earn that trust from the client, to be able to tell them, this is unfortunately the situation we're in, you've got to have trust, because if the client doesn't trust you and you tell them, sorry, there's not much else we can do, they're not going to believe you, or they're going to get mad at the lawyer rather than the situation that we can't control.
Yeah, I mean, somebody else caused a horrible accident, they're really injured, and the other person has $10,000 worth of insurance. Our client didn't have any uninsured motorist coverage, and they're going, I'm upside down $150,000 in medical bills and other expenses and loss of income. That's not fair. It's just not fair. And the answer to that question is, or the answer to that question would be, no, it's not fair. And we recognize that. That's one reason that, I talk to a lot of folks about making sure they get uninsured motorist coverage, because at least there's some level of protection.
Yep. When I first started practicing, passed the bar, we had a case at my first firm, ended up taking it to trial. It was a uninsured motorist case. The girl that hit our client was 14 years old. She took her parents' car, crashed into our client. She got catastrophically injured and took it to trial. Got a very good result, but the only reason we were able to get a good result and compensate her was because she had uninsured motorist coverage. And the first thing I did after that was call my parents and said, you guys need to get UM right now. And I sat down with them, and they didn't really know. They said, I want full coverage. And the agent didn't give them UM, and they had no idea. And when I explained to them, if you get hit by somebody with no insurance, there's not much you can do about it. And when I told them that, and they said, oh, wow, we need UM right now, and they added it right away.
Yeah, and that's one reason we encourage people to use their local established real insurance agent. The woman or man around the corner that's had a successful agency open for the last 25 years, you go and sit down with them, they're going to probably guide you in the right direction. Whereas, I always think that it's like a joke that people will go online without having read my book, without having talked to their local insurance agent, without having talked to anybody that knows anything. And all these agencies that are on TV all the time or online or whatever. So go to our website, and you will be able to pick what kind of coverage you're supposed to have without having any basis for making that decision.
Yep, and that's what they encourage, and I don't know why. I would think they would want to sell more policies, but I think a local agent is always going to be better because it goes back to the trust factor. Is if you're sitting in a room across from somebody, a local person in the community that's going to sell you insurance, they're going to do a better job than somebody that has never seen you before, talked to you before. They're just going to try to make a sale.
The other thing is, if you have a need, whether you're in an accident, if they cause an accident, they'll help you. They'll help. They'll walk you through, different issues and help provide coverage. One of the things that's important is if you have what we call bodily injury liability insurance. In the event you cause a crash, not only do you have the limits of liability that are provided in your policy, but they also pay for a lawyer to defend you and represent you, which can be hundreds of thousands of dollars in certain circumstances.
Yeah, and that's an important part of it is that, if there's a situation where you have no insurance and you get sued, you're on your own. But if you've got insurance, even if you've got a smaller policy, they'll still provide a defense so that there's at least somebody helping you out.
And it's very important that people realize that to have bodily injury liability coverage, number one, you need it to buy uninsured motorist coverage in the state of Florida. Your limit on uninsured motorist coverage cannot be more than what your bodily injury liability limit is unless you have two or more cars, in which case you can stack the coverage, meaning if there's 3 cars in the family, you can actually get 3 times the coverage on uninsured motorist coverage that you would get on your bodily injury liability coverage. That's a whole nother issue that we talk about in the book, buying Florida auto insurance is the fact that you do want to stack coverage when you can.
Yeah, because there's no, I think that going from the insurance defense side to the plaintiff side is there's no harder conversation to have than looking somebody in the eye saying, there's no insurance available. And I've had to have that conversation where people have lost loved ones and there's just nothing there. Or say, here's $10,000. That's what their life was worth. There's no harder conversation to have.
Yeah, and so as lawyers, we can tell people and help educate people. And at Meldon Law, that's one of the things we are trying to do. This podcast is one example. It's going out to thousands of people, and maybe somebody out there is going to listen to us, go to their local insurance agent, get our book, and try to figure out what makes sense. It's interesting because people, if it's life insurance or health insurance, they spend a lot of time talking with people. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to car insurance, it's like, oh, I got full coverage. Well, you've got $10,000 in property damage, $10,000 in PIP, and maybe $10,000, $20,000 in liability coverage, and that's what you call full coverage.
And that doesn't include comprehensive, collision, all the other ones that you might need.
So anyhow, it's really, I guess the way to put it is, you're in foreign territory unless you're an insurance agent and know what you're doing, or a lawyer that's handle it. You really should not be deciding how much insurance coverage you need. It's based on income, your ability, and things like that. But if you're spending a ton of money on other kinds of insurance coverages, you shouldn't go cheap on auto insurance.
Yep, correct.
So anyhow, we're going to wrap up this episode of Meldon Law and Friends. Our great new litigation attorney, Brad Latone, has been our guest today, and we're going to be back next week on Meldon Law and Friends. Thank you very much for joining us.
Jeffrey.